I, a teen male, make my own lunch for school. I started making them when I was a tween and my mom was sick with cancer, and now I make all my lunches. My dad refuses to give me lunch money for school, said no way to him making them. Mom made his and now he pays for lunch every day and doesn't want to give me permission to eat outside school, which is an option with parents' consent because he'd need to pay for that. So I make them. I work part-time and so I started paying for the ingredients I use in my lunches. My dad got married 2-ish years ago. His wife has 3 kids who are kindergarten age and 2 pre-tweens now. For about a year, there's been this issue of my dad and his wife wanting me to make all 4 lunches. They said if I'm making my own, I should make lunches for my siblings. And I say siblings because they're not my siblings, too, to save their mom time and streamline everything. I was like, no, and my dad's wife was shocked. She called me out for making stuff only for myself. She said it's crazy that I would look at my siblings and not want to make a few things for them too. It escalated to the point where they said I shouldn't get to eat their dinners if I won't participate in taking care of the family. So I buy my own dinner stuff now and make my own. Now they're calling me out for doing that. They said I could make dinner for all 4 of us and then we could eat dinner earlier, and my dad and his wife could do something else. My dad's wife didn't make lunches for her kids on several occasions to try and make me relent. Their teachers ended up feeding them and writing to her about it. She was super angry and asked me if I was ashamed. I told her they're her kids and her problem, not mine. I also suggested she take it up with my dad if she's unhappy and wants help feeding her kids because it's not my job. She said if Dad won't feed me, he won't feed her kids. I shrugged her off. Monday was a big day in all of this. I was home for hours alone and made a nice dinner. I was eating when my dad's wife came home with her hungry kids and she exploded on me and asked if I'd made the kids dinner. I said no. She demanded that I make it up to them and make them lunch for Tuesday, and I said no. She called me a bunch of names and told me she hates me because I'm supposed to be a decent kid, and yet I won't help feed her kids, and it's not how you treat family. I told her because it's not my job and we're not a family. I pointed out that she married a guy who isn't a good dad to his own kid and that her only interactions with said kid were attempting to dump responsibility onto him, me, so she really has no idea to think I owe her anything. Of course, this led to her calling me all kinds of things, including an idiot. So am I? Not the idiot. Both your father and his wife are abdicating their parental responsibilities. At a minimum, they have an obligation to feed, clothe and shelter their children. I hope you can confide in someone about this situation and get support and help. This whole family dynamic is toxic, and if your step-siblings' teachers have had to feed them multiple times, stepmom is probably going to get a call from CPS relatively soon. Exactly this, OP. Heck, you could probably call yourself and do it anonymously if you want, or tell a teacher at your school since they're supposed to be mandatory reporters. This is an extremely toxic and abusive environment if they aren't properly feeding the children and trying to pawn the responsibility off on the eldest child, who is still a minor. There are so many messed up layers in this that it's ridiculous. It's crazy to me you even pay for your own ingredients. I'm sorry they're putting you through this. OP, I think you're the reason she married your dad. She was well aware your dad was nothing more than half your DNA. She saw you and how independent you are and said, oh boy, free babysitter, and he cooks too. I can dump my kids on him and finally have a life. But then, obviously, you refuse to play her game and that makes her angry. I don't see that relationship lasting after she loses the kids and the deadbeat she marries refuses to help. My husband and I talked a few weeks back about bringing the kids fishing this past weekend. We talked in detail about our need to reconnect as a family. He works so often that the kids and I hardly ever see him anymore. I work full-time at home, so the entire point of this fishing trip was to spend time together as a family. As I said, it was discussed in great detail. Our youngest child is 5 months old and strictly breastfed as well. We head out Friday morning to grab our boat and head to our camp for the weekend. Everything is going fine until 40 minutes into the drive. My husband gets a phone call and starts saying things like, yeah, I'll be there soon, or what did you bring? When he gets off the phone, I ask him who that is, and he tells me, Heath, a co-worker of his that I've never once met. I asked him if he had invited some random dude I don't know to go on our family outing, and he said he had and didn't think it would be a big deal. He also said something about how his buddy wanted to check out the boat and whatever. I never heard a single thing good about this guy, very misogynistic and makes gross jokes. I asked him to turn around and bring me and the kids back home. He asked why, and I said that this trip was meant for the family to reconnect. as we discussed in great detail, and that I wouldn't be sitting around awkwardly, nursing my baby in front of a man that I do not know and watching over all our kids while he shoots the crap and hangs out with his buddy. I told him it was messed up that he would even consider this to be a good option, considering that now meant that I would be doing all the parenting alone while he got to be social. He said it wouldn't be like that, and he told his buddy that this trip was meant for the kids and that he would have them the entire time, but I honestly just was not having it at all. I know how it would have been because he said this dude brought beer. I asked, so I had him drive me home and told him to go alone. He left angry. I ended up taking my kids on my own trip. I rented an Airbnb on the lake for the entire weekend. I brought my kids fishing, swimming, and to the amusement park down the road. We had a good time. I didn't have cell reception at the Airbnb, so I didn't speak to my husband outside of texting him before leaving, stating I would be gone for the weekend. When I got home Sunday morning, my husband flipped out, said that he had only stayed out on Friday until 5 p.m. or 6-ish hours and came home to spend the rest of the weekend with me and the kids, just to find that we'd left and he couldn't contact us. I told him that none of this would have happened if he'd just stuck by his word originally instead of making a social hour with a guy he sees every day, out of what was meant to be a family weekend. He also allowed this dude to stay at our camp for the weekend because he apparently invited him to stay the entire weekend anyways. Am I the idiot for anything? Not the idiot. He came home to do what? Dinner and bed after spending the rest of the time with a workmate? Slow hand clap for him. Men like this, who put everything and everyone else before spending time with their families, don't actually like participating in domestic life. They enjoy the image of being a family man but don't value spending quality time with their wife and kids. Then he feels left behind when they see the rest of their nuclear family have a dynamic they're not a part of. Should you divorce, these are the weekend dads who will resent the stepdad for being an involved parent to their kids. Her giving him a heads up that they were all taking off was how hubby knew he was in the crap and needed to hightail it back home real fast. He thought he could just link up with them and look like the hero for ditching the co-worker for his family. You know, the one he didn't care enough about to stick to the family outing plan for. He freaked because his wife was out of contact and he was probably worried that she just left his dumb butt. And my father ruined every trip my mother ever tried to plan. We drove half to Disneyland 3 times and turned back around. And if we did make it somewhere, he ruined it with his complaining and whining and drinking. I have about no relationship with him now and still resent my mom for all this. She likes to say she stayed for us kids. She would have been better off dumping his butt. Is this you? Exactly. This is a man trying to do the bare minimum, whatever that turns out to be at any given time. OP is never going to get a real family buy-in from this guy. Not the idiot, but OP will be if she makes her kids live their entire life with dad, who's basically checked out of family life. My soon-to-be ex-wife, 28, and I, 29 male, have wanted kids for years, and we were thrilled when she finally got pregnant last year. From day one, I wanted to be the most supportive husband and future father I could. Her father was never involved in her life. I used to work as a tech in labour and delivery, and my brother, to put it kindly, is not the most involved father. I saw too many problems up close when it came to lacking husbands, and I'd be damned if I would make the same mistakes. The problem is roughly 4 weeks into her pregnancy, everything started going downhill. She stopped wanting intimacy. Fair enough. Hormones and stress make that a problem. I went full stop. But then she didn't want any physical interaction. No cuddling, no kissing, slowly becoming more and more distant. Her eating constantly changed and she was terrible about it. She would demand I get her something all day, and then the moment I give it to her, she wants something else, screaming at me. Okay, again, hormonal issues, I get it, no problem. She never let me go to any appointments, no groups she went to, and spent more time away. She became cold and bitter, constantly angry at me. This went on for months. She slapped me a couple of times when I forgot one of the dozens of tasks she assigned me during the day. She stopped doing anything for the house a month into the pregnancy. Sure, she's pregnant and I get it, moving around is hard, but she wouldn't even do laundry about 4 weeks in, and by 5 weeks I did everything. I'm also the primary source of income. I barely sleep. I'm running on fumes. She made me sleep in the guest room, would always try and pick fights. I never once raised my voice, my hand, or my tone. I sat there and constantly mentally reminded myself this wasn't her and that this would all be worth it. She didn't want me to make any baby decisions. No name, no work on the nursery, nothing. 1 month before she delivered, she yelled about how damn useless I am and how I don't do anything, and that she was staying with her mother. She didn't let me get her anything, come check on her. She threatened to divorce me and get a restraining order if I even called her. A couple weeks back, I found out about the birth of my son from a Facebook post. She posted it with her mother and some family. It broke me. I tried to go to the hospital and visit. They had security kick me out. After months of outright hatred, anger and abuse thrown at me 24/7, I had it. Odds are I'm not even on the birth certificate. I opened a new account and all my deposits go in there. I took half out of our joint account. She never bought baby stuff ahead of time. Who knows what that money was going towards? So now that she has to buy supplies for our son, she's used up every cent. I've gotten a lawyer. The house is mine and I'm the only one who has spent money on it in any way. I've sent the rest of her stuff to her mother's house. I'm demanding a paternity test. I'm not spending another damn cent until I get verification it's my son. I'm absolutely divorcing her. She chose the stay-at-home life. If she cheated, she'd be screwed. Her mother has money for a couple of weeks' stay, but it's not even close to enough for full-time support. If he's my son, I will absolutely be getting my rights as a father for a relationship with him. Last week, my soon-to-be ex called. She was practically hyperventilating. She wanted to come home. She was crying about how it was all a mistake. She's not staying with her mother. She's at a friend's house. She wants to come home. She wants our son to have his father. I told her I didn't believe he was my son. Why the heck would she pull this crap if he is? Show me a paternity test and I'll do everything I can for him, and him only. She wants to meet tomorrow at a park so I can talk to her. I said sure, so I could finally say everything I should have said months ago to her face. My parents hope we can make up, but they absolutely understand if I don't. My brother is a deadbeat idiot, so I don't care what he has to say, but my sister thinks I should at least hear her out. Heck no, do not meet her at the park tomorrow. If she wants to meet you, then it can be at your lawyer's office with your representative present, and a conversation can be recorded. If the child is yours after an immediate paternity test, make sure your name is on the certificate and that you file for equal custody and have an equal say in all decisions of the child's life. I would even ask to communicate via a parenting app. I'm very sorry that you had to go through this, and your experience becoming a father, if the child is yours, was ruined. She's nuts. Sounds like she cheated and the grass wasn't actually greener on the other side, so she wants to come back. You realize your worth and you do not want to be with a partner like this. Please protect yourself. I hope you have cameras around your property, a Ring camera by the door, and that you claim she abandoned your space. Your parents need to be on your side and follow your lead. The relationship is not healthy anymore, and now that a child is involved, you should be putting the child first and not raising it in a potentially toxic environment. Personally, her behavior makes me feel like she was preemptively sabotaging the relationship because of her deadbeat dad. I mean, mission accomplished spectacularly. The fact that she gave birth and you had to find out via a Facebook post is unfathomably cruel in my opinion. The one reason I could understand is if her mind decided it would be better for her to leave you than for you to leave her the way her mother lamented her father's abandoning. It's not a reason to forgive her though. At the damn minimum, she or someone else at the delivery owed you a damn phone call before the post went up on Facebook. I, 25 female, asked my stepdad to walk me down the aisle and do a father-daughter dance with me at my wedding and he said yes. Now, I did this because I knew and was told enough times that he would love to do it and would be hurt if I didn't ask him because he's been my stepdad for 17 years. I didn't really want it to be him, but I knew it meant a lot to him and he's tried to be a second dad to me, and he loves me, I know, and he's done a lot for me too. I just don't consider him my dad or even my primary father figure. That goes to my paternal uncle, but he's also a great husband to my mom and dad to my half-brothers. So I asked him despite him not being who I would prefer, and he was so happy. This didn't last long. About a week after he said yes, he asked me when I decided to let him do it because I always implied heavily it would either be mom or my uncle. The question caught me off guard, and I told him when I realized it meant so much to him. My answer upset him, and he asked what I meant by it meaning so much to him. Didn't it mean something to me? I told him I was glad I could honor what he had done for me, but again, that wasn't what he wanted to hear. He asked me if I asked him because I wanted him or because I felt like I had to. I asked him if that really mattered, and he said yes. He told me he thought I finally come round to accepting him as a second dad. Then he went on a rant about how for years he knew I had never considered him a potential father of the bride and that I'd put so many people before him for who could do the duties of a father of the bride. He said it always broke him when I got sad about Dad being unable to do it because he liked to think I would see that I had an option that was just as special in him. But he said I clearly didn't want him to do it, so he refused. He told me he wouldn't walk me down the aisle or do a father-daughter dance with me if I didn't genuinely want him to because he's not taking a pity ask. A couple of weeks after this, my mom told me how hurt my stepdad was and how he had expected me to plead with him to change his mind. We talked and she said she understood because my feelings had always been the same for him, but she wanted me to know that she would say no if I asked her to do it now because it would destroy her husband. It's been a couple more weeks since then, and my stepdad approached me while we were at a family member's house. He told me how angry and hurt he was that I hadn't asked him to reconsider. He thought I would have a real change of heart after hearing how hurt he was. I told him I couldn't change how I felt, and given he didn't want to do it unless I truly wanted him to, I thought it was best not to beg or plead. He told me he deserved to be pleaded to after all the years he's been treating me like his daughter. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You know, up until the whole rant and he had expected me to plead with him to change his mind, I really respected the guy. Good on him for making sure the person who walked you down the aisle mattered to you. But clearly that wasn't his intention. He clearly thinks he's owed a particular relationship with you rather than the one you actually have. He could have taken the pity ask without question or even taken it after you explained yourself, accepting that while the relationship isn't what he'd like, he still clearly means something to you. Instead, he asked some questions that he really didn't want answered. That's his fault. Well, that was a bit of a mind game he pulled there, wasn't it? It's not good enough for you to respect and care about his feelings. You're supposed to force yourself to feel something you never have, or at a minimum, convincingly pretend to feel something you never have. No matter how devoutly one party or even both parties may wish for it to happen, relationships can't be forced. You can't command the heart. It just doesn't work that way.